Hello my friends, today I have got a super exciting video to share with you. This is a topic I've been really wanting to talk about, and it's one of the most powerful things that has changed my life over the past several years in an insane amount of ways, and I really want to share that with you today. And what we're talking about is how to break out of fractal patterns that are occurring in your life, keeping you stuck, making new decisions, and ultimately creating a life that's actually aligned with what your soul truly desires in this lifetime. So this is such a powerful lesson to embody, and the first time I actually started to understand this concept was several years ago. And I'm going to tell you a little story about this. So I was watching The Crown the other day. I don't know if you've seen it, the very British drama about the Queen. I was watching an episode, and in this episode there was Princess Margaret, who's going on some mad bender. She's like drinking loads, she's just wasted, she's smoking, she's like bouncing around the room, and she's just like really lost, you know? She's just really suffering in herself. And when I watched this scene, it just landed so hard with me, because I just remember all of the times that I spent in my life where I was just drinking a lot, taking a lot of drugs, and suffering. And I remember reflecting at that moment and thinking, man, it's weird how I just never feel the need to smoke anymore, to drink. I never do either of these things. And it's like, I just don't feel the need anymore. And I found it so interesting to see how much I used to depend on it as a way to basically just numb the pain that I was feeling, just with the general mind that I had, the thought process that I had, the internal suffering that I had, and the lack of awareness ultimately of what was going on within me. And when I trace back to those days, and this is where I'm going with this story in terms of like how it ties in with the topic of this video, is that I remember one specific day where I basically been in this habit of going out every Friday, at least every Friday, and just going on a bit of a mad bender. And that's just, it was so deeply ingrained in me to finish work on a Friday and then go out and party on the weekend. And it's like I needed it, you know? It wasn't just like, oh great, yeah, let's go and have some fun. It was like, no, I needed to go and get wasted. I needed to go and do this. I needed to take whatever I was going to take, because I felt sad inside. Like something inside me was so unhappy that I needed this kind of break from my own reality to actually be able to carry on. It felt completely necessary to me. I didn't know this at the time. That's how it felt, and that's how I acted, because I didn't have the awareness at that point of my own emotions, of my own thought patterns. And then there was this one specific Friday night where I had been developing a sense of awareness. I had been practicing meditation. I'd started to like teach myself the basics of becoming aware, and my mind, how it was all working. Excuse me. And this Friday night, I just decided, as I was feeling the urge to go out, I was there alone in my flat in central London, didn't want to just stay in on my own, you know, finish work. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, usually now I'm going to call around, see who's about, see what's going on, and find a party somewhere, somehow, find something to do. But there was a little voice inside me at that moment just going, not tonight. Stay in and don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do what you always do in this moment. You always reach for the substances when you feel this feeling. That's what I was hearing. And that night, for whatever reason, I decided to listen for once to that voice that told me to stay at home. Stay at home and just be with how you feel. That night was the night that I had my spiritual awakening. and I went from being asleep to awake, and I suddenly started downloading a whole different universe of ideas, and my life has never been the same since that night. I woke up the next day and everything was different. And I look back at this now, and obviously there's a whole lot of stories to go from after that point, but the important thing I want to talk about in this video is that I can look back at this now and I'm just so certain that the reason that awakening happened that night was because I was at a critical point of a repeating fractal pattern within my life. It's like a theme that was reoccurring, a pattern of thought that was reoccurring, a process that was reoccurring within me where I'm suffering and then I do this action. I feel these emotions and then I act like this. This was the loop that I'd been in for years and years and years, and it was like a hamster wheel, and it only ever got worse and worse. It never stopped, you know. It always just created more difficulties. And that night, I know by consciously choosing a different path, that I broke the fractal at the point where it mattered most. I escaped the loop at the critical point. And now I see that this approach of seeing your life, like lots of patterns reoccurring. I'm sure you could look at your life now and probably think of, you know, maybe in your relationships, maybe there's been certain patterns, certain types of relationships that keep occurring, the same thing over and over and over again. Maybe the same problems you have at work, with family, with friends. The same things just keep coming round again and again and again. And it never seems to stop. Well, the thing is, there's these opportunities that we have when there's a critical point of emotion occurring, when we're really feeling something very strongly, and we have an opportunity at certain points in time to make a different decision. That is the opportunity to break these forever looping patterns, these fractals happening. These are the opportunities we need to look for. How can we spot those moments when the emotion is strong and when we recognize within us an opportunity to act differently to the way we usually act with reference to whatever the theme is that's playing out? These are the moments we've got to spot. And I've seen this again and again in my life, and often it comes up feeling like an emotional trigger. If you look out for emotional triggers where you're so used to feeling a strong emotional trigger, it's reflecting some kind of limiting belief that you had within yourself. So you're trying to, you have these subconscious responses that occur. In those moments is where we need to find the most awareness. When we're feeling these strong emotional triggers, when we become more aware of what's actually occurring, trace the thoughts back to where it's come from, and you're going to find there something, a belief you hold about yourself that isn't true. And this is the opportunity we have in that moment to consciously make a different decision. We can either make a different decision about ourselves, we can decide to believe something different about ourselves, or we can simply choose to act differently in those moments where it counts. These certain moments where you might feel this inner guidance telling you to act a different way to how you usually act, to respond differently, to react differently, however it might come up. But for once, listen to that guidance. Because I remember so many times before the time that I actually stayed in that night, There was so many times now I look back and I heard that voice telling me to not do what I was doing. There was so often like that little voice saying, just stop doing it. Stop doing what you're doing. Stay at home. Behave yourself. Change this pattern of life you're in. Sometimes it feels like we're not in control and these things are just happening to us. But these are patterns that are there to help us to grow. These are patterns that are playing out in our lives, giving us the opportunity again and again and again to make a decision that is going to expand our awareness and de-layer some of the conditioning that we have that is keeping us small and keeping us identifying with the limited self, the character we've been playing this whole time. If you want to break out and live from the deepest part of you, from the essence of who you are, and identify more with that part of you, it's just critical to start making the decisions in those moments that it really matters. And often it's the most difficult moments as well to make these kind of decisions, because so much of your emotion, your subconscious pattern can be really strong at these moments. But just having the strength of awareness and the strength of will to make a decision that's different, but yet deep down you know is essential in some way or another. And you might not even know why at that moment, but something in you is guiding you. And for some reason, you just know that you need to make a different choice. As difficult as it may seem, that is how you're going to break these patterns. And that is how you're going to step into a far more aligned life. And who knows where that's going to take you. Because I never would have guessed several years after that night, I would end up where I am, feeling how I'm feeling. Because back then I never could have imagined this level of happiness. It simply wasn't possible. But when you start breaking out of these patterns, breaking out of your own subconscious limitations, breaking out of these fractal loops that we're existing within, that the world is just reflecting back at you over and over again, that's when we're really allowing something magical to happen for us. But it is up to us, and it is a matter of allowing it to come into our lives. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows where your life is going to take you? But just keep remembering, you have got the power to decide. You have got that free will within you to make new decisions. So when you get that opportunity, bring that awareness to the moment and let life surprise you. Because who knows where it's going to take you. I hope you enjoyed this video today, guys. And if you do like this type of content, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.